growing up in the Virgin Islands was like a whole vibe, right? I don't know how to explain it, but if you grew up in the Virgin Islands, you know what I'm talking about. Like, answer me down below. Like, what was the vibe, or can you explain what the vibe was like when you were growing up? Our kids today, they're not gonna experience that, especially if we don't live back home. Like, when you walk out in the street, when you go down the road, when you hear the music that's playing on the radio, like here, psh, you get none of that. They got pop popping in their ears and rap music popping in their ears. Like, you have to be very intentional about what it is that you're introducing your children to if you do not live back home, because they're not going to get the same vibe that we got growing up, but at least we can be intentional about what we're putting in front of them so that they have a taste of, our history, our culture, all the things about the Virgin Islands. This is the VI version of the ABCD song. And if you're from the Virgin Isles, why don't you sing along? Let's learn about our cultural history, then pass it to your kin. Let's teach the youth. How did I choose the letters for the book? It was not very easy. I initially had like the first draft of what I thought the letters or some of the letters would be. I didn't have selections for all the letters, but I had my ideas of some of them. As I went through writing for each letter, some of those letters changed throughout the process. Part of the thing that I wanted was to make sure that the words that I'm using are very much specific to the Virgin Islands. For example, the letter M. Initially, when I first write the thought for the letter M for history, I wrote the word mangroves, which is something that when I was growing up in school, a lot of times we went on field trips to these different places to see like the mangroves and stuff like that. And they told you about the history of them and what's happening with them in our environment in St. Thomas. But as I started to look up some things about the mangroves in St. Thomas, I'm like, well, the word mangroves itself is not very specific to St. Thomas. Like, they have these things in other places. So how can I find something for the letter M that represents the U.S. Virgin Islands and is not a generic term that could be applied to anywhere? So letter M was very fun to write. And in letter M, I actually found several things that I could use and put all into one space to represent letter M. So that one is very fun. We'll talk more about some of the pages later this week, but I liked writing letter M. The other thing was that I did a lot of research, right? So I didn't just choose words and then just started to write about it. I actually researched different things about what the word represents for our islands, and it was a lot. I will say it was a lot. And there are people who are going to be like, well, why didn't you use this or this letter? And why didn't you use that for that letter? Because there is a lot of information about the Virgin Islands. I can't possibly write them all in one children's book for 26 letters of the alphabet, right? But I did a lot of research. I think I'm going to share, not during this week because I have to pull them all together. But if you've been following me on my social media channels, you would see that I have been sharing my research along the way. So some of the things that I found that I couldn't use in the book, I've been sharing them on my social media. So for example, on Facebook, you'll probably see some of the things that I shared that didn't make it into the book. One of them being letter A, which was for our anthem that was written by Alton Augustus Adams, which is all A's, right? That would have been perfect for A. But because we had already drawn up A by the time I found that name and he wrote the anthem, so all A's, I'm like, I can't use it for the letter A, but I did share it during Virgin Islands History Month back in March as one of the things. I'll pop it up here, the thing that I shared on my social. But different things like that, it's I researched a lot and everything just couldn't possibly fit into the book. So choosing the letters or the things that go with the letters was super hard, but a lot of research went into it, a lot of time went into it, and a lot of care went into writing what each letter would represent. Working with an illustrator, it was super fun because I like her process. I like the way that she works. So I found an illustrator finally at the end of 2022, I want to say. And part of the reason why I went ahead and chose an illustrator was because I remember I finished writing the first book 2019. And I said I wanted to find a illustrator who is from home to help with the book. Even the first book, that was part of the reason why I was not publishing the first book, because I was trying to find somebody that was from the Virgin Islands who could help with the illustrations. I did not find somebody, but I did find somebody who I could work with. We did a trial project for the cover. I'll show you some samples of that here. And what it came out to in the end, it was super close, but we still had to make some edits on the final cover. From what we had initially envisioned. But it was really good to work with her. Hiring her kind of forced me to finish the book. So even when I did like find somebody in 2022, we didn't start until the beginning of 2023 because I was still trying to finish writing the book. And then I was like, you know what? Can you start even though I don't have all the pages? God bless her heart. Can you start even though I haven't finished writing everything? And I will give you some pages at a time. And then, we'll work that way because one, it would force me to finish it because I know somebody's waiting on me to get pages to illustrate. So it kind of pushed me in the way that I helped me to finish the book in time and have it published for y'all this week. So working with an illustrator was super fun. I love the process. I will link all her information below if you're looking for an illustrator. She's very great to work with and super easy and fantastic. I hope that people who read this book are lit up to go find more information about the Virgin Islands, lit up to like dive deeper into research about certain things. Like one of the things that I had found, letter R, one of the persons that I found for letter R, I was like, I did not know this. I did not know there was this person who did all this first stuff. Like, why weren't, well, I guess I can understand maybe in my day, but the kids today, I don't know if they are learning about her, but she did a lot of firsts. And I was like, ooh, she has to be in the book because especially young girls, they need to know about her and know that they could be the first in a lot of things. So I hope that's what this book does. Like it drives up your curiosity to go find more about these people, find out more about these people or more about these things or more about these places, because it's really interesting stuff. Our Virgin Islands history is vast. Like, whew, I just hope it ignites a fire in you to go find some more about your history. Make sure you're learning about it. Make sure your kids are learning about it. Like, we have to be able to learn about it so that we can pass it on to the next generation. So all right, so this is the second video in the series. Make sure you are sharing the videos. Make sure you are commenting, liking on my social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I have already seen I already have a list of all the entries that have been all the entries that are for the giveaway. I already started the list. I'm like, okay, girl. You got to make sure you put all these people's names in the buckets. I'm about to find that bucket. But I see y'all. I see y'all. Thank you for sharing. And please continue to share as we continue with Launch Week for Ages for Heritage and History. This is the VI version of the ABCD song. And if you're from the Virgin Isles, why don't you sing along? Let's learn about our cultural history, then pass it to your kin. Let's teach the youths our heritage, for that's where life begins. This is the VI version.